All right, welcome to the Golf Podcast Live, brought to you by ECS, Evolve Creative Solutions, Digital Marketing Needs. Guys, lots to talk about. I'm your host, Raphael Calamat, alongside Michael Bleakley. We're going to talk Niemann wins the Genesis Open. Pretty remarkable. Tiger Woods is hosting tournament. Phil Mickelson, Saudi Super Golf League, Greg Norman. How about Rory McIlroy and his comments? Peter Costas, Tiger Woods. Lots of heavy stuff. We're going to try to keep it light. We're going to talk about funny and embarrassing golf stories, as well as try to break that down into a top 10. But before we get started, we've got a special guest. His name is Josh Waldron. He runs Par 3 near me and a podcast as well. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me today. I'm looking forward to talking with both of you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for coming in, Josh.
Thanks, Josh. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing. But we like to give our audience a little bit of information about who our guest is and how they got involved with golf and what they're doing now. So maybe a little breakdown of how you got started and where you're headed now.
Sure. I mean, the first time I played golf, I was probably 12 years old. And my mom took me with two of her friends to a par 3 course. And I remember being on the course and being kind of embarrassed because it was just me and 3 women, but secretly really enjoying the experience. Didn't really touch a club much after that. Went to college where some friends and I would play golf on occasion just for fun. I'm a competitive person, but it wasn't a sport that I had a lot of experience in. So fast forward, I graduate from college. I take a teaching job as a public school history teacher, high school history teacher. Had a great run there, but I also knew that at some point I was on my way out. So I was trying to figure out, when I leave teaching, what can I do, or what can my family and I do that would be fun? And, I'll put this in quotes here, easy money. And so my genius idea was to build what we call here in the US a mini golf course, or a putt-putt course. So I started looking around at land and building costs, and what I realized is that I might not actually have the money that I need to make this happen. But while I was searching for things that existed in our area, I came across this old property that was a putt-putt course and a par 3 golf course. It had just been neglected for maybe a decade. So what ended up happening is we signed a lease on that property in 2013, and I jumped both feet into golf world.
Crazy. Where was this?
This is in Virginia.
Okay.
And so my original plan, of course, was mini golf. This will be easy money. You get things cleaned up. People come, they have fun. But as we started our first year on this property, I got more questions about the par 3 course than anything else. And so that's kind of what pushed me into the world of golf, from 0 to 100, all in a year.
That's very cool.
Interesting.
It's Raph and I have known each other, since the early 90s, from the DJ days. But at one point we were roommates in a house beside a small pitch and putt par 3 course, maybe 60 to 100 yard max holes, and that's what rejuvenated both of our addictions to the sport. So we started, trying to beat each other on this course, and our roommates, we all got into golf again. So there's, I think par 3 golf is actually, it's a lot of fun. It's a quick fix. So how, did you, you started the business. It was struggling, as you said, and the course was neglected. So run us through your tenure there. So from when you started to when you sold the business off, and how you went about marketing, and some of the stuff that people don't typically think about when they are coming to a golf course. Maybe run us through your plan there.
Sure. It was a real gamble. I mean, I stepped in there and probably underestimated the project that I had ahead of me. Mm-hmm. So the first summer when we signed the lease, we just focused on the mini golf course, renovating that, check it off the list. But then immediately that fall, I started to shift gears into getting the par 3 back to the point where it's just playable. When I got there, the grass was up to my knees, mostly probably more weeds than grass. Really just a disaster, broken bottles, all the stuff that people do when a property is just left to itself. So first year was just getting it mowed.
Yeah.
As we got into that next spring, we basically killed all the grass where the greens would be and started over. So we replanted bent grass, so Pencross bent grass. And even, that sounds like the great first step, but if you don't have the equipment to take care of that grass properly, and you don't have the knowledge of chemical applications, like it's not just as simple as planting grass.
Yep.
So we had to figure out the equipment situation. And it really, if I give you kind of the fast forward version of this, it took 3 years for me to figure out how to create greens that were true to putt. So every year was a baby step forward, but year 3 is really when I turned the corner. And from that point forward, we just grew year after year after year. And it was all par 3 rounds. Like mini golf was pretty predictable, like the number of rounds that you'd see. And once school was in session, that really slowed down. But the par 3 brings in all sorts of people. It brings in high schoolers. It brings in people who are retired. It brings in people who are looking to just compete after work. And so that was really our bread and butter, just all sorts of people that appreciated the lower cost and the shorter time of play, but still wanted to go out and play some golf.
Oh, that's amazing. That's an amazing story. I as well grew up when I was much younger playing a place called UFO and Côte de Liesse Golf, and I was 9, 10 years old when I used to go out to these little golf courses out in Montreal, Canada. And that was my introduction to the game. So it's a great introduction kind of place. I'm fascinated the fact that you figured it out all on your own. I guess you didn't look into talking to a superintendent to help you with, triple cutting and rolling and all of that. Was that a process where you got someone who was an expert, maybe in the field, to help you out a little bit?
So I did landscaping in high school and through college. So I felt like, hey, I could figure this out. I mean, this can't be rocket science. But I was very fortunate. There's a nice resort course about 45 minutes from where this course was located. And their superintendent literally lived 5 minutes away from the par 3.
Great.
So when he got wind of what I was doing, he stopped over and he pushed me in the right direction. So between him and also the company that I bought my chemicals from, those two people really gave me the kickstart that I needed to figure things out.
It's kind of like you created your dream job, because everyone thinks that it'd be fun to open up a bar on a beach, or as golfers, like having our own course, and then here you've just gone and done it. And Raph and I have talked about this 20 years ago, how fun it would be to create like the ultimate practice facility or something like what you have. So good on you for taking the plunge. It's a real entrepreneurial spirit, and to go ahead and pick up especially taking a location that's basically failed and then bringing it back to life. So that's something to be proud of.
I appreciate that.
Well, was it a year-round facility? Because that's in Virginia. I'm thinking that the weather is pretty good. I mean, your summers might be a little warm or a little humid, right? So I guess peak season would be somewhere between August to March.
Yeah, so I would basically stop attending the clubhouse Thanksgiving-ish, so like late November. And then I would be over there every day, late February, early March. You guys are up north, so you're a little tougher than some of the people down here. But once the temperature drops below 45, you really only get people who are pretty serious about their golf game coming out to play. Yeah,
I understand. Well, look, that's really an amazing story. We're going to circle back to that, as well as your website and your podcast and the things that you're doing in the future. Well, let's tackle a few things today with the Saudi Golf League. Where do I begin? Phil Mickelson with his comments. He gave a pretty harsh quote back in November to a guy named Alan Ship.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe just start that question from the top there.
Okay.
It's the beauty of going live, everybody.
Yeah, we are going live. We might be lagging or having a problem here with our audio for the first time. Do you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly right now.
Okay, perfect.
Start from the top of that segment.
All right. Well, we wanted to, switch gears and talk a little bit about the world of golf and what's happening with Phil Mickelson, about the Saudi Golf League, the Super League that everybody's been talking about. There was a pretty harsh quote that came out of Alan Shipnuck, and I just wanted to say, if anybody hasn't heard the quote, maybe I'll start with that. Phil talked about the Saudis are being scary mother effers to get involved with. We know they killed Khashoggi and have a horrible record on human rights. They execute people over there for being gay. Knowing all of this, why would I ever consider it? Because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reshape how the PGA Tour operates. Obviously, Jamal Khashoggi was with the Washington Post and was a U.S. resident, and it was a big deal. Phil's been known to talk about, the obvious greed with Jay Monahan or the media rights or the 46-inch driver. So he's always been outspoken, but he's done so much for the game. The reason why I'm just circling back and talking about Phil in a better light is because I think he's made a huge mistake. He has said these things. However, I think he'll come forward and apologize. He has in the past for things that he's said. And it's just hard for everybody to throw him under the bus this way. Legacy media in golf, especially, has a huge influence on how the public feels about a certain person. He is human after all, and I really feel he's made a mistake, and he will be stepping forward soon. Now, am I jumping the gun? Is he maybe not going to come forward and talk about it? I don't know, but I'll tell you this much. Alan Shipnuck, we reached out to him. We wanted to have him on the show, possibly even today, along with us. But I haven't heard back from him. He's got a forthcoming book coming out called The Unauthorized Golf's Most Colorful Superstar, Phil Mickelson. Why did he wait so long to come out with these statements? Did Phil even know that he was going to go public with the things that he said? Did he say it in confidence? I know we've all made mistakes and said stupid things between friends or family members, not thinking it's going to go worldwide public, right? But, that being said, specifically, Eamon Lynch of the Golf Channel wrote a Golf Week article, and I wrote something to the effect that he doesn't deserve all this backlash. And it sounded more like a tabloid opinion piece, along with some facts and quotes, but it was so rough, it was so harsh, that it was hard for me to believe for somebody to go out on a limb that far before Phil Mickelson ever even said anything in return. We haven't even given him a chance to come back out. Now, I know he's had a reputation of being possibly a little bit arrogant, as Jaime Diaz pointed out on Golf Today. He was talking about how, he pretty much is the smartest guy in the locker room most of the time, but he comes off a little bit arrogant. I think he's going to bounce back with all of this. I think he could articulate really well, and he's very likable. I think he's done a lot for the sport. Now, I'm not siding with him. I'm just surprised on how quickly we are to judge somebody we've looked up to, right? You guys got my audio? Yeah, this is a big deal for me because I'm pretty disgusted with some of the comments that people have said. Jaime Diaz is great. He also pointed out that he'll bounce back. He's likable. He gave both sides to the story, which I like. So did Shane Bacon. He talks about how he grew up lefty and how, when he went to college and he followed Phil Mickelson's career and how he did so much. Matt Adams, Gary Williams, Rex Hoggart, they really dug into everything really well and provided news without giving too much of an opinion piece, right? So that being said, I know I'm long-winded here. I got a lot more to say about this. We don't usually...
I haven't noticed.
We usually don't cover such heavy topics and go into it, but I really felt like I needed to say something. Guys, any thoughts on the Saudi Golf League or Phil Mickelson?
Go ahead, Josh.
There's a lot to unpack, and obviously this has been a hot topic for a while now. Phil is a smart guy. He's also a bit of a wild card, and I appreciate wild cards, especially in golf. Golf is sometimes the personalities can be more predictable than other sports. Obviously, he said some things that caught a lot of people's attention, and we'll see what comes of it. We'll see if there's an apology. I think, though, that the thing is, we're living in this era where there always has to be a reaction, and that reaction always has to be a dramatic one. So people see something that's, generating movement, and it's an opportunity for them to get some attention or to capitalize on some traffic. And so you get all these people that the blood is in the water and they move quickly. So I think in this case, Phil actually, his personality got the best of him, and no one has cut him any breaks.
Yeah, no, Phil has routinely stuck his foot in his mouth one way or the other, and always seems to get past the situation relatively unscathed. And this is no different. And let's unpack it even further. I always love that term. But Alan Shipnuck has got a book coming out, takes advantage of a hot topic, throws a little more blood into the water, and it's got everyone stirring up, and it's obviously trying to get a buzz going to drive book sales, in my opinion, when you look at that. And the SGL is a hot button topic already, aside from Phil Mickelson. Just because they are trying to compete with the PGA Tour and pull a lot of the marquee players. Whether they will or not, is a whole another tangent. I don't believe they'll pull the main players, but they might start to pull some of the older guys in their 40s, who just want to put another pile of millions into their bank account in their twilight years. So. And some lesser known players. There's a lot of good golfers out there. They could just start their tour and build it organically. But I think there's a lot to come with this controversy. And Phil, I think he's apologized in the past. He's had all kinds of controversies, from insider trading to gambling. Him and Mike Weir got caught betting for $500 in the course in the early 2000s, and there's always something. So it'll give us something to talk about next week. So let's see how this unfolds, because Raf has got some strong opinions on it, justifiably, and then why don't you dive into your Twitter conversations, Raf, and you're going on with Iman Lynch and got yourself in a bit of trouble, didn't you?
Well, I got my Twitter account banned from reading Eamon Lynch's posts. However, that being said, I had a lot of support through independent media and some legacy media people. I'm not going to mention anyone, obviously, because to stir up the pot is not worth it. But let's look at people who did come out. Dustin Johnson made it clear that he's going to play on the PGA Tour, and most guys do want to play on the PGA Tour. You got Bryson DeChambeau, kind of left the door open. That quote was brilliant, right? I don't know if any of you've seen it, but he talks about the fact that he'll play only where all the best players play, wherever they are. So he's basically saying, I'm just open to playing wherever I want to play because I'm Bryson DeChambeau. But he seems to be siding with the PGA Tour. I think he's a little bit more focused on getting healthier with his back and his wrist issues that he's had over time. Rory McIlroy was surprising. Rory McIlroy talked about the fact that, he didn't want to kick a guy while he was down, but I'll say this. He says he's naive, selfish, egotistical, and ignorant. Oh yeah, I'm not going to kick the guy while he's down, but I'll say all these things.
You're just going to spit on him instead.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, luckily he's not going to be on the American Ryder Cup team, because I think Phil's up for being next Ryder Cup captain, and this is all going to blow over. Phil is too smart He articulates too well. He's just going to move forward. Unless I'm completely off, and I don't think I am. I don't think I am. I think this is a huge deal. He's made the tour look pretty bad. Billy Horschel went on Matt Adams' show on Fairways of Life and said some really great stuff. We talked about Phil kind of leaning on the fact that he wasn't happy with what Phil said either. But rightfully so. A lot of people say stupid stuff. Peter Costas, I look up to him. He made a comment this weekend about Tiger Woods, right? What's the difference between Fuzzy Zeller talking about chicken and his old comment that he made in 97, Mike?
Yeah, that's right.
About, collard greens and chicken, that's what we're going to eat next year. And then he compares it to what's the difference between that and Tiger talking about Hideki Matsuyama and us eating sushi next year. Totally different context, way off, So Costas is not covering that really well.
No, but we're in that age of engagement and clickbait, and that comment from Costas is probably trying to drive attention. And I heard Tiger reference that, and I didn't think there was anything disparaging. Fuzzy Zeller's comment comes at the beginning of sort of the wave of the cancel culture times, and it was definitely across the line.
It was across the line.
That was poor locker room taste that was not meant to be said to a reporter. And it was a huge controversy in those days. So
he turned back. He said, if he keeps on playing the way he's playing, I think the quote was, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I guess we'll be eating fried chicken next year. And then as he walks away, he looked back and fried what did he say? Collard greens.
Yeah.
And it's just.
And whatever else those people eat.
And whatever else they eat. That was the quote. It's so wrong.
It was one of those comments that every word that kept coming out of his mouth, like, oh, don't.
Yeah.
It just keeps getting worse.
Yeah. And why would Peter Costas bring that up, right? He just, like, Fuzzy's probably saying, man, that was 25 years ago. Yeah. So that being said, all I can say is that people have a choice to do things in their lives. And if you're a professional golfer and you're playing at that level and you have an opportunity, now there's many different reasons why people might want to play different leagues. That being, possibly Saudi or going to the United Arab Emirates to play different games or playing in the Middle East. Golfers may not have the opportunity to make money the way NFL players, NHL players, NBA players make. And so they want to go out and secure some kind of financial, situation in their lives because they don't know if they're going to play. What if injury comes into play? What if they don't get their card or make it? So there's different reasons. And I could understand the political situation with Saudi Arabia and what's happened. But, that being said, guys, let's go on to something lighter. We talked about Tiger Woods. Congratulations to Mr. Joaquin Niemann. Niemann winning the Genesis in an amazing fashion. Morikawa unfortunately didn't make that putt inside of 10 feet to possibly kind of put a little bit more pressure and have a one-shot deficit. Did you guys have a chance to watch a little bit of that?
Yeah, definitely caught a lot of it on Sunday and intermittent spots of it through the week. But Joaquin Niemann went wire to wire, and he was due to win again. He's a solid player, so it was great to see him. And Morikawa made a great run at it, and it was a solid leaderboard. So Riviera once again delivered. Number 10, it's a fun hole to watch, and what we see on TV doesn't really give it justice. We know the bunkers are deeper, the green is tiny, and that golf club, even for a spectator to go to a PGA Tour event, you get your ticket, you go inside to one of the most exclusive golf clubs in the United States to see some of the top players, and how many they had 10 of the top 25. They had.
Yeah, they had all 10 of the top. Yeah, they had the top 10
top 10?
world golf ranking players. And that's pretty incredible. The golf course itself is probably one of the most difficult courses outside of the major championships. I'd list it there in the top 5.
Yeah.
And great to see Tiger Woods, guys. Your thoughts on Tiger? I mean, he looks great. I think he looks like he's fit. He looks like he's in a good place. He's happy. I've seen social media comparables where they got him sitting in the exact same spot, and where it looks like a mugshot compared to his big smile and how he was talking to Jim Nantz, who was kind of like prodding Tiger several times to get him to announce where he's going to start playing. But it looks like walking's a big issue, right? Walking's still a big issue.
That sounds like it's the biggest issue.
Yeah.
Really. Like he's hitting balls, he's playing golf. He referenced using the cart at his home club. But walking these golf courses, even though he's not carrying the bag, but that's part of the endurance of 4 rounds of golf plus the practice rounds. So we'll see. Sooner the better for all of us. We all want him out there, but only he's going to know that.
So Josh,
so you guys,
go ahead.
So you're both in your 40s, right?
Yep.
Yes.
47.
All right. So I'm in my late 30s, and I already have some back stuff and some neck stuff where you just some days or some weeks you're kind of in a funk, and it's harder to do the things that you want to do. I think about all the things that Tiger's body has been through. And it's really even amazing that the conversation's still going on. But I think he just carries that weight with him, and the talent it's there. I mean, Michael Jordan can still shoot a basketball. He can't compete with guys that are in their 20s. But I think with Tiger, he moves the needle. He knows he moves the needle. And we all just we're playing on his timeline, which it's both kind of fun to speculate, but it's also interesting to see, when is he going to make his move? When is he going to feel ready to jump back in and go for it?
Yeah, and hopefully it's sooner. I mean, and we look at the injuries Tiger's had in the training. Like you go back into the 90s and early 2000s, this guy was doing Navy SEAL exercises, like running and insane distances, and obviously put a lot of wear and tear on that body. And throw in the surgeries, and I believe he just had surgery shortly before the car accident, which he could have lost his leg in the bare minimum. Like this, he's got past that accident. He's very lucky, as much as we'd all like him to have avoided that, but we're lucky to see him here and even to be talking about his return. And Raph, what do you think about that? We talked about Masters, or the Open would be a nice flat golf course. Jim Nantz, I believe, referenced that. So.
Well, Josh and Mike, I love all your comments. I think that this is going to make a compelling Netflix series at the end of the season when they actually do that documentary. All of this, along with Phil Mickelson and Tiger coming back, I think there's a great storyline there. But to go back to your question about when he's going to come back, I think he's going to come back for the Masters. I saw him running down the stairs at the Genesis. Those look like pretty steep stairs. I think he's playing it up a little bit. I think he needs to get back into shape, and maybe walking a course like Riviera. The Masters is a lot more difficult, but certainly for the 150th anniversary of St. Andrews, that being a flatter course, shorter course, him knowing it, he's still got a legacy he wants to leave behind. He's hitting it well. I think he's going to be able to do it. The problem is he needs to walk 5-6 rounds in a week, prepare himself. So whether or not he's going to go to the Scottish Open, that's the week before, and that being a co-sanctioned event with the European DP Tour, that's a possibility. But I think definitely, I'm thinking he's going to show up to all of the majors. That's what he's going to do, and then he's going to go play the PNC in December with his son. Worst case scenario, might play the par 3 with his son at the Masters if he's not feeling up to it. But definitely 100%, if all goes well, if he does something else doesn't, because it's not just his leg, right? It's his back and it's his ankle. 6 surgeries, right? Running from his ankle all the way up his leg on one side, both sides actually. And
When you have that type of operation, your legs and your feet, they correlate with your back problems. So he's got fused vertebrae,
Hmm.
and then you know have a major disruption to the foundation of his body and biomechanics. So now, who knows? This could open up Pandora's box. We hope not, because it would be great to see him compete, not just compete, but imagine him winning, right? And I always like to think, the beware the injured golfer. And even we've done it ourselves. You go out there, you may not be feeling all that good, and you're swinging easier, and you end up carding a great round. And that happens time after time with these pros. Some Jose Maria Olazabal winning. He had a flu and was told not to play, and goes out and wins. And there's tons of these stories out there. So I think if Tiger can go out there and walk, and even if he's feeling a little off, and maybe he just swings a bit lighter, a little more control, and who knows what can happen.
yeah, I'm thinking of Bernhard Langer winning over at the Chubb Classic this weekend. 64 years old. He beats the old record of oldest golfer on on any PGA Tour to win. He beat himself
It's crazy.
because I think he was 64 years old in 1 month when he won last year, and then this year he wins. And so he hit 85% of the fairways. Guy's a
Yeah,
machine. We call him the Terminator because of his voice. Yeah, it was a
his
good round. I had lots of fun. I'm coming for you.
but his last win, he had back problems. He almost withdrew on Thursday, he could barely walk, and he ends up winning the tournament on Sunday. So,
Yeah.
that's to my point a moment ago.
He's chasing Hale
Yeah.
Irwin's record, right? Of 40, I'm going to say 6 tournaments. I think he's like 43 or something.
He's
Yeah, he's 2
43.
wins away.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
he's
So
gonna get that.
So that's why he did make that joke. He said, "Hail Irwin, I'm coming for you." That's the last thing he said. uh,
And how about Rob Labritz, who we had on the show in
Rob.
December? He got to 26th, which is a decent start.
Yeah,
Obviously, we'd have liked to seen him pull higher, but a lot of pressure to go out there on your first Champions Tour
you got
event
it.
as a carded pro.
And it's 3 rounds,
And
right? You don't have as much time to catch up. He was doing pretty well. I think at one
yeah,
point he was like 4 under, right? He
yeah,
was he was doing pretty good. He could have got a top 20, but fell back a little bit. But
yeah.
good on
Two,
him.
two over the first day, and then he finished 1 under, I believe, to tie for 26. And fair start. That's a little bit of money. Carries him on to the next event, and he's got 26, 25 more. So let's see if he can do it.
Yeah, ride the momentum.
Absolutely.
Josh, you got a podcast yourself. We talked about that before we went on today. Tell us about Getting Off Course. Is that the name of the podcast?
Yeah, so when I was working in golf world every day, I met a lot of interesting people. And I think before I got into golf, I thought golf had a fairly limited audience. But what I've learned over time is that the golf world's actually pretty broad. There's a lot of characters that are connected to the game in different ways. So my goal with the podcast is to find these characters and zoom in on their area of expertise. So I've done some episodes that are, right in the heart of golf world, college golf coaches. But I've also interviewed people that love golf or just play golf casually and have an area of expertise that's not golf related. So the common thread with all of my guests is that they have some connection to the sport, and then we hone in on their area of expertise.
That's cool. That's cool. It's similar to some of the stuff that we do. We always want to have a nice golf thread through all our shows. So whoever our guest is, as long as there's a connection to golf, because everybody's got a great golf story. Golf is a universal game. It's growing so much, especially at the pandemic, and I haven't seen it grow so much since Tiger came into the game. Funny enough, that was our last time the game exploded from '99 to 2002. And now we've seen the same thing happen because of COVID restrictions and mandates
Mhm.
and there's a whole new growth to the game I've never seen. I go out to the golf course now and I see a whole new generation of Zetters and millennials out there that I've never seen, and it's refreshing. to say the least. And I think the par three courses are a great example of it's a great place to start playing and learning about the game of golf. And for those of you who are listening or watching or just getting into the game, I mean, there's different types of golf courses. There's par three courses. There's corporate length courses that have threes and fours. Then there's public, semi-private, private, and resort courses, and all of them, and different levels of style and length and cost.
Yeah.
So certainly there's a big
accessibility too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, because golf has this stigma that it's too expensive, and some people don't give it a try because the cost of entry can be a lot. But really, if you do some homework, there's golf courses for all budgets, and say a $50 green fee, you're going to pay to spend 4.5 hours out on a golf course at $10-12 an hour, and it's actually good value in a lot of ways. And equipment can be bought secondhand. There's ways to get into the game that aren't totally cost prohibitive, and all types of golf, and including the par three experience with Josh. You have now built a pretty deep database around the world of par three courses. Your website's called Par 3 Near Me, and why don't you tell us a little bit about that and how people can utilize that to find somewhere to play.
Yeah. So when I was starting at my par three course, one of the challenges I ran into is how do I help people find this course? There are a lot of resources for your fancier courses or your championship length courses, but there wasn't a lot out there for the par threes or the corporate or executive golf courses. So my genius idea, of course, was, well, I'll just build a directory. Like I'll build a directory for starting with the United States, and then I'll go worldwide. What I underestimated was how many of these courses actually exist. I mean, there's a lot of them. And you go from a par three course that's really a pitch and putt, very short distances, where in some places you pay $5 to play, up to courses that are the full-blown experience, like the Tiger Woods Pebble Beach par three, where I don't know what a round is, but it's maybe $75 or something like that. So this site is designed, there's a geolocation feature. You sign on, you click the little geolocation button, you hit search, and if there's a par three course in your area that I've added, it'll find it. Still work to do. I'm still working through your home country of Canada, but I'm getting there, and the database keeps growing every week.
Yeah, we've got a lot of courses out here. Mike and I used to go play in Vancouver at a place called Stanley Park, right, Mike? And we still do whenever I'm in town. That's an epic course, really epic in the sense that it's nestled in a forest that's a few hundred years old. It's beautiful, and then there's Queenie Park, right, Mike? Yeah, and there's a lot of full-length golf courses that have par three courses within them, right? So there's that.
I think that's the perfect system when you have a full-length course with a par three course embedded there, because then it's a feeder course for your new players. Like you get started there, or it's even a warm-up course for guys who are pretty good, and they can jump over onto the full-length course after they're warmed up.
I definitely like a good quality par three course. There's one Country Meadows, not too far from us here. I don't know if you have that in the database yet, but
I believe I do.
Summertime, their greens are pretty good, and you're hitting an iron off the tee. So I find it's a good test for your short game, and something different, a little bit less punishing than the championship length course. And we all want to shoot our record scores out there, but you go out and test out different components of your game, and then you can bring some golfers who may not be as skilled, and they can go and have fun and not be as intimidated, teeing it up on a 450-yard par four or whatnot. Right. So,
Mike, you hit the nail right on the head, right? With that, it's time consuming. You're playing golf. You got to be out there, 4 to 5 hours. If you're a weekend warrior, and the place is popular, you're looking at 5+ hours on the weekend. It's very time consuming. So going out there for an hour and a half to 2.5 hours on a par three course is amazing, and you get to sharpen up your short game. I mean, sometimes we used to go out there just with a wedge and a putter, no bag, 3 balls in your pocket, some tees. That's all you really need. You know, I was always a big believer on if you lose those 3 balls, then you shouldn't be out there. But if you're, you know, if you got a bag, you could have lots of golf balls. We've had lots of friends, Mike, right, who've lost all their golf balls. Who were just feeding them balls over time. But it's a great way to be social and have fun. And you know, I find it really interesting if they had tournament golf that way. It's the only time, well, in today's day and age, where we could just kind of cross over with a senior playing with a junior. You could play the same tees. You know, it doesn't matter if you're, you know, male, female, old or young. I mean, it's a great way to play the game. And even if you're on a longer golf course, I've always suggested this because I've been teaching for 20 plus years as well. And, you know, go out on the front tees. The red tees are not just junior and women's tees and beginners tees, but they're, you know, they're tees where it's a whole different game. It's fun to play. You're going to use different clubs. You know, most members get this at some point if you're a member at a club, because you'll end up playing all the different tees with different types of members, and you realize, hey, this is a lot more fun. Whole different perspective on a golf course. You know, back tees, you're playing 7,000 yards. Oh, you have front tees, I'm playing 6,200 yards. I mean, it's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Our home course, Mayfair Lakes, reversed the color order. So typically the blues were the back tees, whites were the forward, and then they had yellows and reds. And there was a green that was juniors. But so what they did, they flipped it. So now the red are the tips, and yellows one forward, and then whites would be what were previously the women's tees, and yellow up forward. So or sorry, blue is all the way forward. So what that does, at first I'm like, what did they do here? This is annoying. But watching the results of this has been really interesting, because you see a group of 4 guys, you know, all like, you know, 20s, 30s, you know, decent shape, who are terrible golfers. And they go up to the white tees, which is probably playing 5,500 yards. So for one, it keeps them moving at a good pace. 2, they probably have more enjoyability, because we have water hazards on 13 of 18 holes. So this place will eat your lunch some days, especially when the wind howls through it. We're pretty close to the ocean. So if it's a windy day, you know, look out. The course has a lot of teeth. So I think it's serving its purpose. So, you know, people are unknowingly going up to a shorter tee box because they're used to playing the white. So they just walk up there and they jump on it. So I'm a big fan of it. And we have, there's been a lot of literature in the last 10 years about moving forward. And you know, no matter what your skill level is, just don't let the ego dictate where you play, because it's not just yourself, you affect the whole field. So if you're playing on the tips when you are a 20 handicap, you're just pissing off everyone behind you. And you're having no fun, and you're probably not going to want to come back and play again, because the course is going to kick your ass. Yeah, it's play to the right tee box based on your handicap, and if you're 5 or better, sure, go back to the tips, you know. And, but if really, even if you're a long hitter, you're better off to go and play at the right decks.
Yeah, I don't know too if you've seen even the trend with some of the newer par 3 courses that have been built. Andy Staples courts down at PGA National, where they don't even have defined tee areas. So whoever wins the last hole can pick to tee off from sort of wherever.
Interesting.
And that's taking it even a step further, like, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the idea of the stigma being removed from certain tees or certain colored tees.
A lot of supers have done that at their golf courses. Just remove all the tee boxes, all the markers, and they put all the tee markers on the same tee, right? Just so people don't go out and play. So you see all the colors lined up on one tee box, and I like that, because then you kind of feel like you're forced to go there. You'll have people who still want to go back there, You know,
Sure.
I've worked at golf courses, you know, for so many years, and people always, you know, the strange thing is people walk in, they say, "What's the course record? How far is it from the back tees?" And you're looking at the guys, and they look like weekend warriors. They're like, why are you asking these questions? But to your point, Josh, the PGA National, that's over at, you're talking about the one over at Palm Beach in Florida? Yeah. That's where the Honda Classic is happening this week. You know, it's funny you bring that up. That course is fantastic. We'll see how it goes. There's a mandatory player meeting this week, and they're going to be covering a lot of these topics, one being the Saudi Golf League and probably a number of other things with players' rights.
Charlie Hoffman's going to be part of this conversation.
Oh, yes. Charlie Hoffman. Well, we talked about that last week. I guess we're not going to dive into that any deeper. But, you know, the Honda, then we got Sawgrass. You know, the game couldn't be in a better place. You know, we're looking at $20 million purse for them to play the Players this year over near Jacksonville. And some pretty good results this weekend. Did you catch any of Colin Morikawa? Cameron Young is a guy who kind of caught my eye for the very first time in a way he never has before. Such a power move through the swing at impact. Blows my mind. Such a great player. Victor Hovland, Adam Scott, Justin Thomas playing well.
Yeah, Cameron Young had a couple of mishaps in the bunker, and where, you know, had he made bogey or even parred on the third round, he could have been right there. You know, with all those mistakes, he was just a couple shots off. So I think we'll see more from him in time.
Wasn't it great to see Niemann come off the green and Sergio Garcia waiting for him along with all his fellow South American, you know, compatriots, you know, and then having that crowd there, it really made him feel a lot better. I forgot about his Greensboro win for a minute there. I thought it was his first win, but then I was reminded that he's a two-time winner. He's won before. And he's got that dip and that move through the impact position. You know, it hurts my back just looking at it. But he's always had a super low ball flight, right? On the 18th hole, he hit this worm burner about 60, I don't know, was it 20 feet off the ground, about 300 plus yards. And that was his regular ball flight. But you can't play the PGA Tour on these fast greens and hold a lot of these greens. For example, the Masters with a low ball flight. So he's made an adjustment by dipping down and having that bent position at impact. He's really wiry and quick through the golf swing, and I think he's found something special. If it works for him, I mean, there's a lot of special swings out there with Wolf and other people who've got like moves that we're not used to. Jim Furyk back in the day, and so many people have a unique move at the top of their swing. Something that surprises me is Jordan Spieth. He's got that takeaway, and now he's got this pre-shot routine where he looks like he's going to come over the top. It looks really scary. Do you know what I'm talking about, guys?
Position. Yeah, in his finishing position, he's rolled over on his heel, and it looks like it hurts. But I mean,
it's very strange.
He's a little wild off the tee, as we all know. But I think any other golfer can relate to that. But he has got a great short game, and he can putt. You know, when he's hot with that putter, he makes 25 footers regularly. Yeah. Sometimes longer, which seems like he's got a deal with the devil or something like that to be able to pull this off so regularly. But he is wild off the tee, and I think that's what I appreciate about him, because he gets himself some positions, and then he's got a knack to recover. And he's not the longest hitter. Obviously, he's long enough to, be aggressive and have a go at par fives and whatnot. But he's definitely not leading the length by any means. But it's very interesting to watch. So keep it up, Jordan.
Yeah,
give us a few more cliffhangers too. That was fun.
Yeah, it's nice to see, the better fields now with all the cream rising to the top. You got McIlroy, and there's a lot of first-time winners this year. Scheffler getting I think a seventh place this week. It's nice to see him play well. But any one of these guys, whether they make the cut or not, have the ability to turn it on and possibly win. And that's why all these stats don't mean very much, because we're looking at the top 1% of 1% in the world playing this game. It's fascinating to watch. It's so much fun. The game's expanding so much on how it's covered. You know, I love all this new drone footage that they're showing. I know, Mike, you're in the drone business as well with ECS, and it's really incredible. Guys, any thoughts about the tour this week happening over at Honda or Sawgrass?
Can I back up real quick on you?
You got it.
So I think Niemann, 23 years old, you come out hot, right? Pretty incredible that at some point he didn't fold, that he was just able to hold on the whole time. And so, you know, of course, I'm paying attention to Morikawa, and there's other people. I like Max Homa. But I think at 23, I mean, this is someone who has now commanded our attention. We'll see where it goes from here.
Right.
Let's not forget, yes, he's 23 years old, but he's been on tour for 5 years.
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, 2 wins, great. You know, it just feels like he's been out there for a while, and so people are critical. But to your point, he is 23 years old.
Yeah, and I mean, we're just seeing it. I mean, you think about, I know when I was 23, you know, I was, you know, still trying to figure things out. But, you know, he's got 5 years under his belt, 2 wins. He's just getting started. He's, you know, extremely flexible and fit, and he's got 10 years, unless some unforeseen injuries happen. But I think he can maintain this for the next decade. And who knows how many wins he can stack up. But at some point, his body will start to get a little tighter, and age creeps in. You know, each decade, things get a little stiffer and harder to move. So, but if he can ride this confidence and into the majors, and who knows what we're going to see out of him. It's a good looking swing, and he's got his uniqueness about it. But I think we're going to see a lot more from him.
Yes, we are. I'm going to bring this up. I'd like for all our listeners and viewers, our whole audience, to know that we don't have any financial sponsorship for this show. And that if you like the content and you like our guests and you like what we are talking about, want to hear us continue doing this, this is show number 21. Please go to our Patreon link. It's on YouTube. And you could support us. You'll get a hoodie, maybe a cap, a sticker. We got a mug that we give away. You could do monthly sponsorship as low as $1.50 a month, all the way up to, you know, coming on to the show or being a sponsor. So please take a look at that. If you like the content, we're reaching out to you because I think after 21 shows, it's time for us to mention that we do not get paid for doing this. We're on 16 different platforms right now, and we love to talk golf. We're passionate about it. We're going to cover as much as we can with the amount of knowledge that we have. Between Mike and I, we've got, you know, combined 50 plus odd years in the golf industry and around golf. So it's not like we're not guys who don't know what we're talking about. We've been following, and I did golf radio back in the mid 2000s on CJAD 800 radio. I've covered several Canadian Opens as well as a President's Cup. Walked inside the ropes, worked at public, semi-private, and all different types of facilities, academies over the years. So please take a look at what we have to offer, and don't be afraid to get in touch with us. You know, send us a message, give us some support. It's nice to hear from our audience. It shows that we've got anywhere between, you know, 500 to 20,000 across all platforms on all our shows. So the numbers are growing tremendously. Yeah, thank you for watching. We want to just acknowledge that you're watching and you're listening to us, and we know you're out there. Josh, where can we find you?
Yeah, so my projects, par3nearme.com is my directory of short courses. And gettingoffcourse.com is my golf podcast. You guys are about 11 episodes ahead of me, but you're doing great work.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty cool that you're taking the live show approach. I know that comes with some different challenges that I don't have to worry about. So keep up the good work.
Thank you. We talked about that last week with Gary Williams, because he and Trevor Immelman were talking about how they love doing live, and I think for us it adds that element of there's a bit of nervousness. You know, be careful. There's no editing, and really it just it's about a raw conversation, and so yeah, that's why we enjoy that. And one thing what we really like to do before we end a show, Josh, is get a good story from you. And for one, I'd like you to maybe tell us about those trophies behind you, if there's anything there, and then give us your a couple embarrassing points that you've seen out in the golf course, or your to give something for viewers to laugh, because I know that's what they really enjoy.
So the trophies I'll tackle first. I love competition. The smallest, dumbest thing to the most serious thing. I love competing. Basketball is my favorite sport to play. I played college baseball, so that was my best sport, but basketball is the sport I love. So a few years ago, my window for dominance is quickly fading here. I'm 38. I put together a team with a group of guys who were anywhere from 25 to 40. We put together this dream team, and we won the championship for all the men's teams in our area. So cool. Big life achievement, check it off the list. There was no $12 million purse or anything like that, but it was still very satisfying. As far as stories go, I have two stories for you. One would be about a par 3 golfer, and the other one would be about my experience on the course. So the first one, people walk into a par 3 course, and for many people, it's the first time that they've played golf. So one summer, we had this guy show up. This might have been maybe in June. He shows up for the first time, goes out on the course. But before he goes out there, he knows nothing. Like, he's got the full bag, his old driver, this set of clubs from the 70s. So he's asking me questions. I kind of give him some tips. I let him know you're really only going to need 3 or 4 clubs in that bag, but have at it, go have fun. Well, this guy starts showing up religiously, day after day after day, he's there. And the course that I ran, even if you're not great, we're talking an hour and 15 minutes tops. You should be able to be on the course and off the course. This guy would come strolling in 2.5 hours later. And I know I haven't heard any complaints, so he's obviously not getting in people's way. Nothing out on the course is being broken or damaged. So whatever, like if he's practicing and he's getting hooked, I'm fine, go do your thing. So this goes on for about 3 weeks, and then he just disappears. It's like he's dropped off the face of the earth. He shows up again, maybe a month later. And what had happened all that time that he was out on the course, hole 4 was one of the longest holes on our course. And there was forest all along the left side of the hole in a pretty narrow shot. Well, this guy in hole 4, he would lose all of his golf balls. And then he would go through the woods just searching for his golf balls and other golf balls. Well, he got poison ivy from head to toe. I mean, he was walking around in this stuff for weeks while he's sweating in the summer. I think it got into his throat and his lungs. It was for real.
Wow.
So yeah, he came back after a hospital stay and some steroids that he had to take. But so that was a great introduction to golf. So that's my first story for you.
That'll teach you.
Yeah, exactly. The second one, I was responsible for mowing and watering and all the fun stuff that comes with the golf course. And one of my least favorite tasks was actually limbing the pine trees. So we had pine trees that lined every fairway, which protected you from getting, pegged by a golf ball from another fairway. So one day I'm out there limbing trees, one of my least favorite tasks, and I'm reaching up, I've got my loppers, I'm going to clip this branch, and I see it, this giant wasp's nest or hornet's nest. And by the time I saw it, my hands are already clipping the loppers together. It's too late. I clipped the limb that this thing is on. And I mean, this nest had to be almost 2 feet tall, a foot wide. These wasps went ballistic.
Oh, no kidding.
And I mean, I tried to, I'm trying to limb around golfers playing. So when a hole's clear, I'm sneaking in there, trying to trim a few things and get out. These wasps come out, they're as angry as anything you've ever seen, and they attack. I mean, I get stung in the neck, I get stung between the fingers, and I can't play it cool anymore. I'm full sprinting across the course with golfers, all of who know, like, this is the guy who runs the place. So great memory there. The joys of running a course.
Oh yeah.
I think we all have wasp stories in the summers. I almost got my legs crushed off a horse when I got bitten in the going over a wasp nest in the ground when I was a kid. But that's not really funny. It's just that's a fact.
No. I was in a tournament once at Pitt Meadows Golf Club, the Golden Years tournament, which has been running for about 6 decades. And come off the first hole, you're walking, it's about 200 yards to the next tee box, and you hear this buzzing sound, just this loud buzzing sound. And I look up, and the sky was all black, and you could hear the bees. There was tens and tens of thousands. I've never seen it like this. Like, all of us were like, holy shit, what do we do? So we all like kind of stood under the trees and tried to stay out of the way. But turns out that the queen was moving. So so they all come together, and apparently it happens around that course once in a while. So some of the members had seen it before, but it was a bit unnerving for sure.
Yeah.
As far as funny golf stories, I'm going to mention Kyle Porter from CBS. He ended up sending me his book, Normal Sport. I just wanted to say a quick shout out and thank you. Great illustrated book, great stories from 2021. Hopefully he'll be doing another one. And all the boys down at First Cut Podcast who do such a great job on providing news in a very different way. Rick Gaiman, Greg Ducharme, Mark Immelman, Kyle Porter. They're really doing a good job, so a big shout out to them. A special thanks to Matt Adams and Gary Williams of Lemon Teas for sharing all their stories and everything they've done. And other people who inspire us, like Riggs and the boys at Subpar. I think golf is changing. I think it's being presented differently. We're seeing women's golf, champions golf, and all these different tours. I think it's fantastic. Any final thoughts, Mike? Josh, anything you want to maybe say and thank, or any sponsors you want to thank as well, Josh?
Adding to what you just said, there's a lot of great channels out on Instagram, Twitter, like Club Pro Guy and Sire Golf, and there's so many. There's hundreds of excellent channels that these people who aren't very well known, but they're putting together great content. Bob Does Sports in the Brilliantly Dumb show. He's made a name for himself. He goes out to tour events, and people recognize him. Him and his cast of characters, Joey Coldcuts. And,
Joey Coldcuts.
No, these guys are hilarious. So, yeah, they got to be 30, maybe. I don't know how old they are, but it's the younger generation of golf and content that's out there. It's pretty fun to watch. So yeah, say shout out to those guys to keep it up. And over to you, Josh.
Yeah, I think just to Ralph's comments, golf is changing, and I think it's changing for the better, and I think more people are engaging with the sport, and I'm kind of excited to see what lies ahead. I do want to thank you guys for having me on the show. It's a joy to be with you. Absolutely. I've listened to several of your episodes. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And then I'm hoping maybe a month or two here down the road to have both of you on my show. We can talk a little bit about some DJ stuff, because that's a world I don't know much about.
Sure.
And of course some golf.
Yeah, we'd love to. Let's tee that up. You give us some date options, and we'll make that happen.
Will do.
All right. Well, listen, you've been listening to the Golf Podcast Live. Again, we're on about 15 different platforms right now, whether it's audio or video. For Josh Waldron, Michael Bleakley, I'm Raphael Calumet. You've been listening to the Golf Podcast Live. It's a very special thank you to the Upper Hand Cards and Collectibles who've been with us from the beginning. Of course, ECS, Evolve Creative Solutions, Digital Marketing Needs. And we'll see you next week. And in 2 weeks' time, we've got a very special great guest. Craig Can will be on, former Golf Channel analyst and now public speaker. As well, he has his own podcast on Sirius Radio. Guys, we'll see you next week. Take care. Thanks again, Joe.